You know, if we're lucky, we're all going to get old. And when asked, most people want to get old in their homes.
It provides a sense of continuity, of self, belonging in the community. And those things are hard to maintain when you're in a facility.
And to stay in our homes when we're old is really hard. We've never lived independently as older people. We've always lived in communities, and we need to provide care that enables us to live the life that we want to live, even as we age, even with complex medical illness.
One of the biggest barriers we've seen recently assisting elders age in place is getting consistent care through the various vendors that we contract with. We've had people staying in nursing facilities much longer than they would just because we're unable to find that coverage, find that care at home.
That has led to a number of people being sort of stuck where they are, not being able to locate the supports that they would need. And that has particularly gotten worse as a result of the pandemic. I think what we're seeing is a lot of anxiety, a lot of depression, and a lot of feeling like a great deal of their lives are out of their control.
We are experiencing a critical shortage of direct care workers right now, and that's primarily, I think, due to COVID. They're exhausted and traumatized from what they've been through.
It has to do with older people who are maybe considering retirement, exiting the workforce, or not wanting to work because their fears of COVID, and also competition with other places that have raised their wages. We're having people move on to things like Amazon, Target, and those are becoming our direct competitors.
However, we've been experiencing this shortage really for decades. I think we have a long way to go in readjusting our values to put elders in the place they should be and caregivers in the place they should be.
My name is Constance Burrington, and I'll be 96, and I don't feel it. I've got poor bones, and I've fallen. So I fractured this femur, right across. So I was at Shawnee Manor, and I could come home in May, and I just got home the last week of October. Those things are hard to go when you're feeling, I want to go home. Not to say anything against the girls there, I liked all of the girls. Home is home. I mean, you got your own stuff, you're more able to do things for yourself.
My goal is to help people to stay in their homes. I want to be involved in home caregiving because I think home is better than being in the facility. Even before the pandemic, it was tough. A lot of the aides had to work for 2 or 3 agencies to make ends meet, and they still was living in poverty.
A home care aide, for example, could be a home care aide for 25 years, but really on par with someone who just started today. And they're lucky if they're making $16 an hour. There's no career ladder or even a career lattice.
We're seeing a lot of aides that are working 60, 70, 80 hours, or they're working multiple jobs. Partly because they have to, because of the low wage, but also because they're in such high demand that they feel almost a pressure to do so.
Before the pandemic, we weren't essential workers. We were just aides, and we weren't really recognized. But now that the pandemic came in, they call us essential workers. Care is essential. We are here to do it, and we need to have our voices heard. For a long time, we have been invisible.
They are the eyes and the ears, and we many times write them off. We're not treating them how maybe we would treat the nurse, and they're such an integral part.
They're the front line. They're the folks most close to the resident or the client, and they generally care a great deal. They need to feel like what they're seeing, what they're saying is being heard and addressed.
There are some days that nobody comes in, nobody calls, those happen. When they come in the door, they take a good look to see that I'm all right first. which is necessary. And I know I can't survive safely here without help. You get to the point where you know what you can do and what you can't do, much to your great surprise. Just turned 80 in August. It's good to be home. I mean, you're around your own surroundings. I watch the birds outside. I like to knit. I like to read. There have been times when they can't come, and that makes it difficult, you know. And, well, things just pile up.
Because the turnover is so high, the folks that stay are always asked to do more.
We don't really have a backup of workers like we used to, and we'll get a call that they're just unable to come. Something happened, you know, life happens, their car breaks down. For someone who's very fragile, we will advise that they go to a hospital or they call 911 to get the assistance that they need or that care, which is something we never would have done before.
I think if we continue on this track of a workforce crisis and we don't solve it, it's going to be a disaster.
People are not getting care, and so they're either not able to be discharged from skilled nursing to come home, or their family is having to pick up the slack or maybe work from home.
And I think largely working women are going to come out of the workforce because they're going to need to take care of aging parents. I think our care is going to decline in terms of our quality of care, and it's not going to be as skillful because we're not training people to go into this work. There's a whole bunch of evidence saying that we need better pay and better benefits and better sick pay, and I think that's really true. But I also think there's a lot that we need in job stability. So imagine a world where we didn't just have, you know, personal care aides, but we trained people and they were developing multiple skill sets at the same time. They could be a part of a community rather than this siloed piece, the way we think about it now.
I would like to see care settings that more closely resemble the small home model, where you serve a smaller amount of individuals in a more home-like setting.
We've seen through pilot programs that it works really well when you give the direct care worker some autonomy and some regard and some opportunity to be part of the team, that it does reduce the turnover and it does improve the quality of care.
How do we make jobs that people want to work in? Team care for complex illness is really the gold standard. How do we bring people into teams? How do we use their expertise to make our care better? So LifePath has been a really great innovator and leader in trying to think during this crisis creatively about how to create a workforce.
I think until we make this a public campaign, we're not getting that out to the general public that there's this crisis until it affects their life. And then they realize that it's a crisis.
Caregiving is my passion, and I've done it for like 37 years now. So when I wake up, that's what I want to do.
It's very sacred work to me. It's really a blessing to be of service, truly of service to another human being. That's really undervalued in our society.
The people that stay are the people who you want taking care of you, but they also need to be recognized, they need to be compensated, and they need to be supported. We can't have a healthcare system without these people.
The system needs to change, and that was the gift of COVID, if there was one, is to see how quickly we could change. Let's continue with that and really let us adapt for our communities and then study it. Find the best practices and share them, but we have to do it differently to make it work.
We still have a long ways to go. The tunnel is long, but I could see the light. So we're gonna get there.